Hi guys, today is mostly cloudy, but I see some sun. So let's continue with the discussion more accurately. Constructive critique of the AH model. I've been talking about this, but I think we are coming to a crucial point. So we're talking about what is the takeaway, the key message. You keep talking, you may ask me, say, hey, you have been talking about the constructive criticism, critique. So what is the construction? What is the new thing that you added? If you ask that, I'm going to answer will be just simple. Um, it comes down to one formula. Okay, in that formula, on the numerator, it's basically the value of innovation. In the AH model, they name that on the numerator is the monopoly rent, monopoly profit. We've been talking about the denominator is basically risk adjusted discount rate. So what is the risk? The risk is the being replaced, being obsolete, being completely killed, overnight, especially with that party ladder. I think party ladder basically means that the step to this technology is here, this level, and then once the new, with the new technology innovation, you raise to the other level. But that level is actually standing on the dead body of the current innovations. So it's almost like in a library that every time you read a new book, and then you burned off the old book. So that's it. That's actually a way to show that how unrealistic, how minimum unviable assumption that the ANH model has been making. However, I do want to say that I do want to make one key point is that unlike Schumpeter basically has a pessimistic view of capitalism. He believed that capitalism may have doomed because creative destruction. So you may end up being like a socialism, kind of like in order to save the capitalism. However, I'm totally agree with the ANH model. They believe they have a very positive view, which is absolutely right. I totally agree with him. They're saying that with the creative destruction, we will have a better, more promising capitalism in the future. Okay, I think that I'm totally agree with that. So the reason is that let me actually, they were betting everything on the creative destruction, which basically, you know, um, like I said, use the example that every time you write a new book, you burn off the old book, right? Every time you have a new step, you kick off the new step. It's standing on the dead body of the old step. So that's kind of an idea. But actually, I would actually go back to one of the fundamental assumption, which I call that minimum viable assumption. That's insatiability of human desire. And that leads to the scarcity of the fundamental economics assumptions. Basically, insatiability means that you got something, you give people one thing, people want to as two things. If you give them two things, people want to three things. It's a non-stopping chasing after better, safer, cheaper, fancier, more complicated. Everything's better. So that's the fundamental thing. That's the fundamental. I would say that fundamentally make the capitalism to be better, getting better and better. And people, why? Because people constantly looking for the next big thing, and that's why leads me to another most important point that I want to make is that on the denominator, it's not just the creative destruction. It's not just the risk adjusted discount rate. Instead, we have that I will add another term, which is I call it, something you can call it either self-survival, self-thriving, self-spreading, self-perpetuating. Basically, I'm arguing that there are two tendencies simultaneously for every innovations. One tendency is that we have a diminishing return. Actually, we can call that self-construction or self-destruction. I'm sorry, which is it's basically one version, an extreme version of diminishing marginal return. Uh, but if you think about this, we have, if there's no creative destruction, then we have a well, I don't know how to pronounce that, a perpetuity, uh, meaning that the value of innovation will stay forever. Other than the only thing that you take off is that the discount time preference, right? Other than that, there's no, uh, innovation stays forever. So that's one extreme. Another extreme is the self-destruction, creative destruction, call that, right? So, but in my model, the denominator is not just either perpetuity or creative destruction. We have a third term. The first term is discount rate, right? That's regular. The second term is creative destruction. We call it the Schumpeterian effect. The third term that I'm going to add to it is that to minus this the self-survival, self-thriving, self-spreading, perpetuating effect of innovation. I assume basically says that the two simultaneous effects coexist in the same time. We do have like a creative destruction. In fact, if you look at the more details, there are two things that we can separate, but we can loosely put them together and call that creative destruction. One tendency is that the diminishing marginal return. Remember that old law always applies even to innovations. Okay, so with that, so that one diminishing marginal return existing even without other new innovations coming up, because you always have some deterioration. You have like depreciations, tiring, those kind of things. So that exists without having new innovations coming up to replace the old one. However, with the new innovation, the speed, the process of replacement will be speed up. Notice that I say replacement. It's not the same thing as the, killing this all the innovation overnight. No, that's never the case. Okay. So basically, we have the discount factor. We have a creative destruction, but this time I'm going to add two things. One is horizontal, another is vertical innovations. They both can coexist. In fact, in my model, I'm going to say that one way for the model, for the innovation to have the tendency to be self-perpetuating, self-surviving, self-spreading, is through the varieties. Okay, so in fact, let me give you the three reasons why every innovation, even whether it's a major or small, but especially major innovations, they have a tendency to self-surviving for three reasons. Number one, let me see. Okay, let's stop here because it's 10 minutes.